Our top story news coming in overnight. A fire broke out in a hospital in Mumbai, Thane in Maharashtra. It's the prime critical care hospital. This fire started around 3 a.m. and 4 ICU patients have died. Let's go across to NDTV Saurabh Gupta for more. Saurabh, give us the details.
Well, what we know so far is that this is a hospital that was located in the Kosa area of Mumbai, and and the fire brigade rushed to the spot and managed to extinguish the fire. But unfortunately, at least 4 lives have been lost, and what we also know is that a high-level inquiry has been constituted to go into the cause of the fire. Now, what is happening, and a lot of people suspect, is that that because hospitals have been running round the clock. Now, this was, of course, not a COVID hospital is what we are being given to understand at this point. And we've been told that there were no coronavirus patients in the hospital. But what has been happening that in Maharashtra we've seen a spate of fires in hospitals, and many blame it on the on the overworked sort of system, because many say that earlier they had time for checkups and routine maintenance, which many haven't had the time to do given the caseload. But unfortunately, now I believe the Chief Minister had already ordered a fire audit of our hospitals, especially after the Bhandup incident, and also the same questions were raised after the Palghar incident, the Virar incident, where also people died. But it clearly seems that, there's another fire where the fire brigade thankfully reached in time, and an inquiry has been ordered to check about the cause of the fire.
All right, Saurabh, absolutely. This is another in a series of such incidents that we've seen in the state. We believe Minister Jitendra Awad also reached the hospital overnight. What is the situation like now?
Well, we are being given to understand that the patients have been shifted to other hospitals, and at some point, some are saying that at what stage the death occurred. Did it happen due to the fire? Is something that again being will be clear only after the post-mortem is done on the patients. But at this point, it's it's clear that lives were lost, and that is something that's unfortunate, and we believe patients have been shifted.
Right, let's just listen in to what the minister had to say.
कौशामध्ये असलेल्या प्राइम हॉस्पिटल मध्ये शॉर्ट सर्किट झालेलं आहे. त्या शॉर्ट सर्किटमुळे आग लागली. एकंदर 17 पेशंट होते. त्याच्यातले 3 जण मृत्युमुखी पडल्याचे प्राथमिक अंदाज आहे. बाकीचं कशामुळे आग लागली, का आग लागली, ही चौकशी समिती नेमून त्याची चौकशी केली जाईल. मृतांना प्रत्येकी 5 लाख रुपये देण्याचा आदेश माननीय मुख्यमंत्र्यांनी दिलेला आहे. त्याप्रमाणे 5 लाख रुपये दिले जातील. जखमींनाही 1-1 लाख रुपये दिले जातील. पण प्रामुख्याने ही घटना कशी घडली, का घडली, त्याच्या मागची कारणं काय आहेत, हे म्युनिसिपालिटीचे अधिकारी, पोलीस अधिकारी आणि डॉक्टर यांची संयुक्त समिती मिळून चौकशी करून अभिप्राय देतील.
All right, we will get you more on that fire that broke out in Mumbai and Thane, in which 4 people have died. Moving on to other news now. Delhi recorded 381 deaths over the last 24 hours. That's the highest since COVID first reached the national capital. The number of fresh infections was 24,149, which took the number of active cases to 98,000. The positivity rate remained at a massive 32.72%. Now, the numbers in Delhi have been inching down since the lockdown started in the city last week. COVID had exploded in the city this month, reaching a 28,000 plus figure at one point. The subsequent shortage of beds, drugs, and most importantly, oxygen have stretched hospitals to a breaking point. In fact, take a look at the situation outside a COVID care facility that was started in Chhatarpur in Delhi, in which there was a battle almost for patients to get for the relatives of patients to get their loved ones into the facility. NDTV Sukirti reports.
माँ मेरी माँ, अब कहाँ ले जाओ उनको, ये तो बता दो। कहाँ ले जाओ इस साले गेट ही नहीं खोल ले 10 फॉर्मेलिटी बता रहे हैं ये करो वो करो क्या करे देखा है नहीं पहले फॉर्मेलिटी पूरी करो मैसेज करो व्हाट्सएप करो क्या करे तो देखा नहीं यही बड़े बड़ा चिल्ला रहा पागलों की तरह खड़ा होके देख लो भाई देख लो
28-year-old Mukul Vyas brought his 52-year-old COVID-positive mother Kiran in an auto and waited outside the Sardar Patel COVID Care Center for 3 hours. But he could not get a bed for her. She passed away in this auto. There are 500 COVID beds inside the center, but people are struggling to get an admission. Many who even got the DSO or district surveillance officer's reference for admission as per procedure also had to wait for 4 to 5 hours outside.
सुबह 10 बजे से खड़ा हुआ हूँ. हमारे बॉस ने उनका जो मेड है 2 का रजिस्ट्रेशन हो चुका है, लेकिन यहाँ से बोला जाता है कि अंदर से लिस्ट आएगी, अनाउंसमेंट करेंगे जब आपको अंदर जाने दिया जाएगा. लेकिन 10 बजे से अभी तक ये टाइम आ गया, कोई रिस्पॉन्स नहीं आया. ना हम पानी पी पा रहे हैं ना कहीं खाना खाने.
There are no ICU or ventilator beds right now in the center, and people with oxygen levels below 85 are not allowed, leaving those like 40-year-old Surinder Sachwan waiting on the footpath.
सेंटर बना सरदार वल्लभ भाई पटेल, इसमें भी ये कह रहे हैं ना ICU है ना वेंटिलेटर है ना कोई बेड है, कोई इंतजाम नहीं है. आप ले जाओ अपने पेशेंट को. मैडम 15-20 हॉस्पिटल हो गए हैं, कल से हम लोग ऐसी ये सब ऐसी है. मैडम उन्होंने मुझे रिप्लाई भी दे दिया आप कहीं और ले जाओ, हमारे पास बेड नहीं. हाँ जी उनके पास मेरे पास मेल है रिटर्न में आया उन्होंने, तो रिटर्न में लिख के दिया उन्होंने कि हमारे पास बेड नहीं है, आप कहीं और ले जाओ.
Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal today assured that more ICU beds are being set up across Delhi.
GTB हॉस्पिटल के सामने एक रामलीला मैदान है, वहाँ पे हम 500 ICU बेड्स तैयार कर रहे हैं. LNJP अस्पताल के सामने अपना जो मेन रामलीला मैदान है, वहाँ भी हम 500 ICU बेड्स तैयार कर रहे हैं. और राधा स्वामी सत्संग में हम 200 ICU बेड्स तैयार कर रहे हैं. तो ये 1200 ICU बेड्स गंभीर मरीजों की देखभाल के लिए, ये 1200 ICU बेड्स 10 मई तक बन के तैयार हो जाएंगे.
Authorities continue to assure that there will be more hospital beds and facilities in the upcoming days, but here on ground, families of patients are fighting a battle every day and some lose their dear ones while waiting out on the roads. In New Delhi with camera person Pujaria, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
News now from Maharashtra, and Maharashtra on Tuesday reported 895 new COVID-linked deaths, of which 392 occurred in the past 48 hours, while 179 had occurred in the last week. In fact, officials say the delay in reporting the deaths was because of the scrutiny of the mortality data, which was being given to them by authorized laboratories. It's an ongoing process, they say, and the meaning that the state cumulative numbers are subject to change. So Maharashtra, they're reporting a massive 895 new COVID deaths, but some of them took place over the last week, some of them in the last 48 hours. News now from Kerala, where Kerala for the first time has crossed 30,000 daily cases. In fact, it reported 32,819 new COVID cases. That's the first time they've crossed 30,000. 32 deaths were also reported in this last 24 hours. Let's go across to Sneha now for more. And Sneha, a big worry now with the number of cases there increasing, and for the first time, Kerala reporting over 30,000 daily cases.
Well, that's right, Gargi. In fact, the test positivity rate has been only increasing. It's over 22-23% currently. So that remains a huge concern. With this kind of a spread, we may be looking at a whopping numbers in days to come. And that's perhaps the reason why restrictions have been strengthened on the ground. In fact, if you can show you police personnel here at several points in the city to do any checks to see if there's unnecessary movement. There are random checks happening in place across the city today morning. That's one of the measures, but several other measures also which are being enforced. Of course, there is no lockdown per se, but strict measures being looked into in the city. Now, what's also a huge concern across the state is out of the samples that were tested for the month of March, there have been also the double mutant variant of COVID-19, which is linked to Maharashtra. That has also been found. If you look at the samples from across the state for the month of March, it's Alapura and Kottayam which have reported that mutant variant, the double mutant variant the most. Then there's the other one which is from South Africa as well, and that's the highest which has been found in Palakkad and Kasaragod, the variant from South Africa. So these two also this information also being given out. The Chief Minister saying these variants or double mutant presence in Kerala also is likely to see the numbers soar in days to come. But even as all of this is happening, there's an appeal. This is the wedding season appeal which has been given out by the Chief Minister. Try to avoid weddings as much as possible, even if the minimum numbers have been permitted in terms of 50 for weddings and 20 for funerals. But keep it aside as much as possible. Perhaps right now the most critical factor in Kerala and the biggest challenge before the state is in terms of the number of beds that could be expected in days to come, especially beds that are supported by oxygen. It's on a war footing that measures are being taken across hospitals, including medical colleges as well as private hospitals. Many private hospitals have said that they are running full capacity but are extending their wards to cater to COVID patients. Well, we also have a ground report on how the war room looks like, which is the nerve center across districts in Kerala.
All right, Sneha, thanks so much for joining us with those details. So cases there increasing in Kerala, crossing 30,000 cases for the first time. And from Kerala, let's go across to Jammu and Kashmir, where they've also reported the highest single-day cases. That's 3,164. And that's a massive number for the state, 3,164 COVID-positive cases being reported in the Union Territory in the last 24 hours. Let's go across to Nazir for more on this. Nazir, give us the details and what is the positivity rate?
Well, it differs from place to place. While the government is not releasing the daily, the number of tests today, and then when we can see the positivity rate, but it has, for example, in Baramulla a few days back, they did the random testing and there was over 20% positivity rate. Srinagar alone had 1,144, cases, which means for a not big city, you have, now the more than 6,000 positive cases in Srinagar city alone. So how will the hospitals, medical facilities bear this the pressure of this increasing this number of COVID cases in Jammu and Kashmir? Over 3,000 cases yesterday. So in a place like Jammu and Kashmir, 3 is really worrying for everybody, for health officials, for common people. What is, puzzling why government is not putting restrictions, asking people don't go to mosques. It's a Ramadan, don't go to mosques. Let there be no congregational prayers. They are happening. Be it Friday prayers, be it regular daily prayers, they are happening. They allowed tourists come here. There's so far no restriction. There are, non-local workers. They're coming here. Many of them are coming even without testing. Recently, day before yesterday, there was a random testing at Kazigund, where out of 190 laborers, 110 turned positive. So that's a really worrying thing. And here also it is spreading in the community, and so far there has not been any effective mechanism to deal with this. Yesterday, government has announced, restrictions under Section 144 in Srinagar, which means not more than 5 people can assemble, 5 or more than 5 people can assemble at any place. And here, when the entire country is facing huge shortage of oxygen, here in Kashmir, there's so far no shortage of oxygen, and there are people, volunteer groups, who are actually distributing oxygen free of cost.
All right. Thanks so much, Nazir, for joining us with those details. And now breaking news coming in from the northeast, where a massive earthquake was felt. A magnitude 6.2 earthquake has struck the northeast. Let's go across to NDTV's Ratnadeep for more details. Ratnadeep, we believe it was a massive earthquake and there were aftershocks as well.
That's right, Gargi. In fact, what we can confirm to our viewers is that officially what we have been now told that the magnitude is 6.4 on the Richter scale. The epicenter is in Sonitpur district of Central Assam, near Tejpur town. And as of now, what we have picked up from official and unofficial sources is that major jolt and two aftershocks have been felt all across Northeast. Even as I was actually preparing for my daily work, I felt the jolt. It was a massive jolt. And then, the scenes were like everybody rushed out of their apartments, of their buildings, on the streets. Remember, Northeast is a region which is not new to earthquake. It is an earthquake-prone zone. So people usually are used to earthquake, but they're used to a mild or, mild earthquake. But this is one earthquake which really shocked everybody. People have been taken by surprise. And then there was the first major shock, and then which quickly followed another aftershock. And I think after a spell of 10 minutes, there was a minor aftershock. So there was basically three shocks that people experienced. At this point of time, there is no report of any loss of life and property, but we'll have to wait for the officials from different states to get back to us. But what we can confirm to the viewers is that Northeast has experienced a major earthquake, and across Northeast, not only across Northeast, we have reports that jolts were felt all the way in North Bengal, in the Darjeeling region, as well as neighboring Bangladesh as well.
Right, Ratnadeep, in fact, you said earlier the news was it was 6.2, now you're telling us 6.4, and Himanta Biswa Sarma has just tweeted that it was 6.7 on the magnitude earthquake. He's saying waiting for more details. He's just tweeted this and he says that they are awaiting more details, and of course it's early yet, but we are waiting for information. You said that this was, if you could just tell us where the epicenter was again, and we're waiting for more information about, possible impact of this earthquake in the state.
That's right. In fact, the magnitude, the exact magnitude will be finally, officially given out by the National Seismology Center, but we'll have to wait for that. But definitely the magnitude will be above 6, and above 6 in a very difficult hilly terrain in Northeast is a major concern. Earthquakes have always been a concern. As of now, there is no report of loss of life and property, but then these are early hours, and government machineries would be, now trying to take stock of situation. But this, perhaps after the Sikkim earthquake, this is one major earthquake where people really got scared. Usually, people are used to earthquake in this region, and this early morning double shock, the two waves of earthquakes which first came back to back, and the minor third shock have really, shock the people. At least that's what I can confirm at this moment. And we are waiting for more details in terms of if there is any loss of life or property across Northeast.
All right, Ratnadeep, we'll leave it there and wait for you to get us more information. There you can see visuals that were shared this morning, people running out of their homes. It took place early in the morning around, as Ratnadeep said, around 7:30 is when this earthquake was felt, and then the aftershocks also being felt. Initially, we were told it was a 6.2 magnitude earthquake, then 6.4, but now the Himanta Biswa Sarma, State Minister in Assam, has tweeted that it was 6.7 and that they were waiting more details. Well, we'll slip into a short break now and get you more news on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, the Allahabad High Court has taken judicial notice of a news article in a Hindi daily, Amar Ujala, that 135 students, Shiksha Mitras and investigators appointed to election duty died during the state's Panchayat elections due to COVID. Hearing a PIL, a division bench comprising of Justice Siddharth Verma and Justice Ajit Kumar further directed the State Election Commission to take immediate measures in the remaining phases of Panchayat elections to ensure that COVID guidelines are complied with, else action would be taken against officers involved in the election process. The Allahabad High Court issued a show-cause notice to the Uttar Pradesh State Election Commission, asking it to explain why it failed to enforce COVID protocols during the Panchayat elections and prosecute those responsible for such violations. Now, Uttar Pradesh, at least 7 COVID patients died in 2 hospitals of Meerut. The doctors have attributed the deaths to a severe shortage of oxygen. 3 COVID patients died at a private hospital, Anand Hospital in Meerut. Another 4 died at the KMC Hospital. And as COVID cases spike in the country's most populous state, Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has repeatedly asserted there is no shortage of oxygen in the state. But NDTV Saurabh Shukla found the reality was very different.
जितनी उत्तर प्रदेश की आबादी है उतना देश के अंदर अगर आप देखेंगे तो 22 राज्य आते हैं तब उतनी बड़ी आबादी होती है। उस सब के बावजूद आपने देखा होगा ऑक्सीजन की क्राइसिस दिल्ली के अंदर है, यूपी के अंदर ना के बराबर है। और यूपी के अंदर वही लोग इस क्राइसिस को करने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं जिसके बारे में हमारे एक अभी मित्र ने कहा भी कि पहले से ही किसी पूर्वाग्रह से ग्रसित होकर के जो लोग किसी उसके साथ कर रहे हैं।
I am joined by Dr. Subhash Yadav. He is MS Anand Hospital. Yesterday in his hospital, 3 patients died due to lack of oxygen. Sir, what happened yesterday? Why weren't you getting regular supply?
In this second wave, the situation is very, very bad. I will say we have faced the first wave, and I tell you, not a single patient died in our COVID facilities in the first wave. We managed so well. But this time when we don't have oxygen, which is a main weapon in our hand, so how will we fight? How will it save the patient? For last 2 days, there was acute shortage of oxygen in our hospital. We were allotted 400 cylinders in a day, but we were getting just hardly 90 cylinders, and that too 5 at a time, 10 at a time. So at the same time we were left with 4 cylinders, and there were in the queue all the hospitals ambulances were in the queue for oxygen. So nobody was getting filling. So every hospital faced shortage of oxygen yesterday for 2 hours. And I would say that I lost 3 patients yesterday, and all the hospital have lost 3-5 patients.
Due to lack of oxygen.
Due to lack of oxygen. Number of patients who require oxygen this time is very high. Around 70% patients who are admitted in the hospital, they require high flow oxygen.
So as of now, sir, you are not taking new patients who need more oxygen supply?
We are not able to take those patients who require load of high flow of oxygen. Like with 75% saturation, how can we give them oxygen? Yeah, right now we are taking patients who have got oxygen around 80 to 90%, so that we can give a little bit of oxygen to every patient and we can save them, like 2 liter, 3 liter, 4 liter. So we are continuously doing rationing of oxygen to each and every patient.
Do you think that this problem is going to go away?
No. This is going to peak between 11 May to 15 May. It will peak. When it will peak, we are having 3 times of patient now. I think we will have 4 times of patient now at that time. We barely need oxygen. Otherwise, we cannot save patients. Lot of patients will die.
डॉक्टर गुप्ता, आपके यहाँ कल कितने मरीजों की मौत हुई ऑक्सीजन ना मिलने की वजह से?
मैं ये तो नहीं कहता कि पूरी तरह ऑक्सीजन ना मिलने की वजह से हुई है, लेकिन ये बात जरूर है कि वो एक बड़ा फैक्टर है। और मेरे यहाँ कल 3 से 4 पेशेंट कल सुबह से लेके, कल अर्ली मॉर्निंग से लेके, बल्कि पोस्ट लर्निंग कल अर्ली मॉर्निंग से लेके और रात तक 4-5 पेशेंट जो हैं एक्सपायर हुए हैं। उसमें ऑक्सीजन का ना मिलना एक महत्वपूर्ण फैक्टर है।
और
परसों रात भी मैं मानता हूं कि 2-3 पेशेंट मेरे ऑक्सीजन की कमी की वजह से ये हो सकता था कि अगर ऑक्सीजन की सप्लाई हमको प्रॉपर मिलती तो हो सकता है बच जाते। मैं ये तो नहीं कहता कि वो ऑक्सीजन की वजह से मरे हैं, लेकिन ये एक फैक्टर जरूर है।
एक फैक्टर जरूर है कि ऑक्सीजन की जो जितना प्रेशर मिलना चाहिए वो नहीं मिल पा रहा है आप लोगों को। सर, आपको क्या लगता है कि ऑक्सीजन की कमी भी है इस बार और दूसरी बात है कि डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन में भी प्रॉब्लम है।
या ऑक्सीजन की अवेलेबिलिटी जो होनी चाहिए वो ये जो अभी आया है कोरोना का जो इतना बड़ा हम लोग झेल रहे हैं भयावह स्थिति, उसमें जितनी ऑक्सीजन हमारे पास अवेलेबल होनी चाहिए, एक तो वो नहीं है हमारे पास। नंबर 2, जो डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ ऑक्सीजन है दैट इज नॉट वेल ऑर्गेनाइज्ड, दैट इज नॉट टारगेट ओरिएंटेड, दैट इज द मेन प्रॉब्लम।
टारगेट सर, सरकार कह रही है कि ऑक्सीजन की कमी नहीं है, आपको कितना रिक्वायरमेंट है रोज का और कितना मिल पा रहा है?
जितना हमको ऑक्सीजन का रिक्वायरमेंट है उसका हमको 55%, 55%, 60% मिल पा रहा है।
जिन्होंने अपने मरीजों के लिए खुद ऑक्सीजन का इंतजाम किया है, जद्दोजहद कर रहे हैं, और ये मेरठ का KMC हॉस्पिटल है, यहाँ का सबसे बड़ा प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल में से एक है। सर, आपका कौन एडमिट है अंदर?
सर, मेरे जीजा एडमिट है यहाँ पर, और पिछले 2 दिन से मैं जो है ना जद्दोजहद कर रहा हूँ ऑक्सीजन के लिए। योगी जी बोलते हैं कि ऑक्सीजन है, ऑक्सीजन है, मुझे तो लगता नहीं कहीं ऑक्सीजन है।
कैसे इंतजाम कर रहे हैं? हॉस्पिटल क्या कर, हॉस्पिटल के पास ऑक्सीजन नहीं है?
हॉस्पिटल ने मना कर दिया है कि अपना पेशेंट ले जाइए, या हमारे पास ऑक्सीजन नहीं है।
तो योगी जी तो कह रहे हैं कि कोई प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं है, मुख्यमंत्री जी
जी आके देखें ना यहाँ पे।
सरकार कह रही है ना बेड है, बेड की कमी नहीं है, ऑक्सीजन की कमी नहीं है।
बेड का क्या करेंगे जब ऑक्सीजन ही नहीं होगी।
मोहम्मद इकबाल है।
आपका कोई एडमिट है अंदर?
हाँ जी, मेरी माँ एडमिट है।
माँ को एडमिट है, तो आपको ऑक्सीजन की जरूरत पड़ रही है उनको?
ऑक्सीजन करनाल से ला रहे हैं जी।
करनाल से ला रहे हैं? 25,000 रुपए का सिलेंडर लेके आ रहे हैं।
25,000 रुपए सिलेंडर ला रहे हैं
करनाल से।
करनाल से।
सरकार तो कह रही है कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है उत्तर प्रदेश में ऑक्सीजन की।
सरकार आके यहाँ देखेगी तो पता लग जाएगा ना कि कहाँ की वो हो रही है।
2:30 बजे से जा रहे थे, 2:30 बजे से जा रहे थे, जब ये लेकर आए।
गंगानगर से ऑक्सीजन मैं लेकर हूँ। गंगानगर।
क्या नाम है सर आपका?
मेरा नाम दिनेश कुमार है।
आपके कोई मरीज?
मेरा खुदा भाई है, मेरा सगा भाई है। यहाँ पे ऑक्सीजन नहीं, यहाँ पे जमुनानगर से मैं खुद लेकर आया 5 सिलेंडर। कैसे
रिफिल दे रहे हैं खाली,
आज में भी नहीं दे रहे लोग। आज रिफिल खाली भी नहीं दे रहे, भरी तो क्या देंगे ये लोग, लेकिन खाली नहीं दे रहे।
अक्षय, आपके कौन कौन एडमिट है यहाँ पे?
मेरे मदर और फादर दोनों एडमिट है, दोनों कोविड पॉजिटिव है, और मतलब 3 दिन हो गया उनको एडमिट हुए। फर्स्ट डे ऑक्सीजन मिली थी यहाँ पे, कोई डाउट नहीं है, अच्छी ऑक्सीजन मिली थी, लेकिन 2 दिन बिल्कुल ऑक्सीजन नहीं है यहाँ पर। और हमें 2 सिलेंडर दिए गए हैं, उन्होंने दिए, खाली सिलेंडर दिए हॉस्पिटल ने हमें कि आप जाके रिफिल करा लाओ, क्योंकि इन्होंने हाथ खड़े कर दिए।
कहीं से भी करा लाओ,
कहीं से भी करा लाओ।
वी आर स्टैंडिंग आउटसाइड डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट्स ऑफिस ऑफ मेरठ टू नो द वर्जन ऑफ एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ऑन आवर इन्वेस्टिगेशन, बट इट डिड नॉट कम ओवर द फोन. We reached out to Chief Medical Officer of Meerut. He said that DM will comment on that, but he did not meet us. One thing is very clear, that statement of UP's Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath that there is no shortage of oxygen in whole Uttar Pradesh has fallen flat, because several patients died due to lack of oxygen in Meerut yesterday. In Meerut, it's Shashikant Jha, Saurabh Shukla for NDTV.
Welcome back. The latest news coming in from the northeast, where an earthquake magnitude 6.4 took place this morning. Let's go across to NDTV's Ratnadeep for more details on this earthquake. Ratnadeep, what is the latest you can tell us? There were aftershocks as well.
That's right, Gargi. In fact, there have been 2 aftershocks. In fact, there have been 3 shocks in total, 3 waves in total. Now, what we are getting officially from the authorities is that the magnitude of shock is 6.4. Now, what we are hearing from different sources, official and unofficial, is that the jolts, and all the 3 jolts have been experienced all across Northeast India. In fact, not only Northeast India, we have people calling in who have said that they have experienced jolts in North Bengal, and even there have been some tweets that people in bordering areas of India and Bangladesh, they have experienced the jolts. So this is a major earthquake which has taken place. We are not yet confirmed in terms of if there is the loss of life and property, although we are getting pictures of, loss to property with, windows broken, with cracks on the walls of different buildings, as well as, basically some of the furnitures getting damaged as well. So these pictures are coming in, but there is no report of major loss of life and property as of now. But we are trying to establish, contact with all the state governments across Northeast. And as of now, what we can confirm is that there have been 3 shocks in this series of earthquake, and the magnitude is 6.4 on the Richter scale. We'll have to wait for official confirmation in terms of what is the magnitude, what is the impact in terms of loss of life and property. Remember, earthquakes are nothing new for the people of Northeast. Northeast is the earthquake-prone region, but these are these 3 shocks really actually surprised and shocked people. I did see people running out of their homes. In fact, I also ran out to safety on the main road. And whereas we were preparing actually for our previous bulletin, the 3rd shock came in. So people are anxious whether there would be more aftershocks or not. So this is the situation as of now, and we're waiting to hear officially from the government in all the northeastern states, from the agencies concerned, if there are, any loss of life or property. All the responders, the emergency response centers of all the states, the NDRF, remember there are 2 battalions of NDRF posted permanently for Northeast. So one in Arunachal Pradesh, another in Assam. They have been alerted. So all the agencies are alerted already, and we'll have to wait and watch if there have been any major impact.
Okay, Ratnadeep, thanks so much for joining us, and you do stay safe. That is the latest on the earthquake. So far, no major news coming in of any sort of loss of property so far. And there you can see Himanta Biswa Sarma has just shared these visuals of the impact of the earthquake. So some damage, given that it was a magnitude 6.4 earthquake, there's some visuals of some sort of damage caused by that earthquake. We're still waiting for more information. News now from West Bengal, where there's growing worries among private hospitals about the Phase 3 vaccination drive, which begins from the 1st of May. The state government has now told all private hospitals that they must return all COVID vaccines lying with them after the 30th of April. And from the 1st of May, private hospitals will have to procure vaccines directly from the manufacturers. Private hospitals say there's no clarity on how they're to get the vaccines and how soon they can get them.
With effect from 1st of May, we will not be able to procure vaccinations through the government channel. We will have to directly get in touch with the manufacturers based out of Pune and Hyderabad, depending on whatever we want to buy, and get it from them and start dispensing vaccinations. Now, this is where the complication sets in. Now, if standalone hospitals were to start approaching Serum Institute, I don't think we have got much of a leeway with them to be getting vaccinations as per our requirement. Secondly, some of our colleagues have approached them, and we were given to understand that there is a 5-month waiting period. They are committed to a lot of other countries, a lot of other governments, of state governments. So it's said it's a 5-month waiting period.
Now, ever since the second wave of coronavirus has hit hard and people have been desperate for resources like medicines, oxygen, cylinders, plasma, even hospital admissions, there have been an army of individuals who've really risen up to the challenge, who've come out to help. They've been using social media, WhatsApp to amplify requests, find resources, seek out hospital beds for those in need. Now, unfortunately, something new has emerged. What is being seen is that many of the young women volunteers who are sharing their numbers to help out people who are in need, who need plasma or oxygen cylinders, are actually being harassed by men. Many have complained about this. In fact, former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah also tweeted about the kind of harassment women are facing in this time, and so did Mumbai photographer Atul Kasbekar. Well, to talk more about this, we're joined by Sandhya Fernandez, founder SOS Saviors, and Mayank Agarwal, who's a journalist who's also been in touch with many women who've experienced this. Sandhya, thank you so much for joining us this morning to speak about this issue, which is, really disgraceful in this time where you have many women, giving out their numbers because they want to help other people, that you face this kind of harassment.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Gargi. It's great we have a platform to discuss this, because we've been doing medical aid since a year now, and there is so much that happens behind the scenes that we cannot vocalize giving priority to those who need help at that hour. Often we give out our personal numbers so that the families can reach out to us on time. And while we guide and help so many of them, there are certain categories of people who take advantage and text us till wee hours and feel privileged to receive the kind of help they've got previously. Even if we tell them that there are certain limitations to the kind of social aid that we can give, they would continuously bombard us with messages, threaten. In fact, very recently, I had an experience with a man who I have helped 4 times in the last year to help the patient's family get beds and have surgeries done. He has been threatening me on Twitter. There are like spam tweets that he's put across to all possible, tweet threads. And irrespective of raising this up with Twitter time and again, reporting the tweets, there's no action being taken. I had to resort to block him on Twitter, to which he came to my WhatsApp and started threatening me. You cannot block me, unblock me right away. You've got to be there with me and help me out. Otherwise, I'm going to malign you and accuse you for murders. And I don't know, maybe mentally he isn't stable at this point. I wouldn't name him because he himself has a young kid and a wife. But till 6 a.m., that man continued to text me and keep telling me. In fact, Gargi, I want to point out that we are a volunteer-driven initiative where 20 people are together providing these aid. But the action or the threat came only towards 2 women. The harassment was only directed towards 2 women in that entire group and not towards the men of the group. And when I raised it up with him, he went on to Twitter to write it that, she accuses me of not harassing men and she wants me to harass men. But the point is that we are subjected to these kind of harassment time and again. And unfortunately, there is no one we can go to and, raise our objection.
Right. It's absolutely, very disturbing to hear about how, women coming forward because they want to help. This is a crisis and all of you have really risen up to the occasion. So many volunteers online. Mayank, many women. You're someone who's been helping on social media as well, amplifying requests. And everyone doesn't want to come out and talk about it. But many women are also receiving vulgar messages from men. They've shared their numbers because they want to help families, help those in need. And then, this is the way that they're treated. They're getting sometimes vulgar messages as well, isn't it?
Thank you, Gargi, for having me over. But I'll just start from saying this. I have a privilege that I am a man. And honestly, over the last few weeks that I've been trying to just connect people to authorities, connect people to those who can help, the donors and everyone, I came across several of my friends, several of the volunteers online and people I know personally. They are bombarded in their DMs, in their WhatsApp messages with obscene pics, offers for dates in exchange for help, and so on and so forth. There are so many things which I can't even say it on TV right now, but they are being bombarded. And what it has done is it has forced a lot of women volunteers who were actually leading this cause on social media and otherwise also in different organizations. It has forced them to step back and not help. And imagine already in a system which is crashing, which is not getting the required help, if some people are already stepping back because of this kind of disgusting behavior, what it says about us. As Sandhya just pointed out, you look at a man who has been already helped so many times. If that person is coming back and helping, harassing a volunteer, I am like at a loss of words. So in fact, in the last couple of days, there was this initiative from a Delhi University students group, wherein a lot of young girls who wanted to help, and somebody shared that, will I amplify that information? So before doing that, I warned them that these are like all the 11 to 12 numbers of different girls, and like these are female numbers of female volunteers. Are you sure you want to put it out? And probably you just change the name. Like, I felt bad while saying this, but I suggested to them that, can you please change the name? Otherwise, these girls will face a barrage of calls, which will have nothing to do with help, or it will have nothing to do with anything, just obscene messages and pics.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mayank, for joining us and talking about this. And Sandhya, thank you for your, service, your help to people. And it's very, very unfortunate that you're having to undergo this. And this is an issue we need to speak about more, that, this is a time of need. This is a time when people are coming forward to help. And it's absolutely saddening to know that women are now, shying away because of this kind of harassment that many of you are facing. Thank you both for joining us on the program today. Well, with that, time for us to slip into a short break. We'll be back with more. Stay with us. Now, with hospital beds running out, home care for COVID is becoming more important by the day. Here's an explainer on self-proning. Now, this is a technique which is being used effectively across the world and in hospitals to increase lung capacity and oxygen concentration.
Self-proning is basically a restorative yoga pose and is also known to be used in COVID-19 ICUs as self-proning or swimmer's pose. In a pilot study that was conducted in the New York City, in the COVID intensive care unit, they figured out that within 5 minutes, self-proning can actually increase the oxygen saturation in the blood by 10%. So what exactly is proning? It resembles somebody who's sleeping on their stomach, but with a proper support to support the body in the lungs as well. Proning is a medically accepted position to improve breathing comfort and oxygenation. It is extremely beneficial for COVID-19 patients who have a bit of compromised breathing comfort, especially during home care. But it's important to understand who should really be doing proning. Now, if you're under home care, that is, you're treating COVID at home and your oxygen concentration falls below 94, it is to be done by people like you. It is best done while awaiting hospitalization or oxygen support as well. There are 4 self-proning postures, and we'll show you all of that in just a bit. But remember that do not spend more than 30 minutes in each of these positions at a stretch. Some cautions also to remember while you do practice self-proning at home. Avoid proning for at least an hour after your meals. Maintain proning for only as much as you can and your body can easily tolerate, and keep a track of any pressure sores or injuries, especially around the bony prominences in your body. But there are some people who should avoid proning altogether. This applies to pregnant women, any major cardiac conditions if you've been through, if you have an unstable spine or you have a pelvic fracture, or if you've had a DVT in the past couple of days as well. So now that you understand what proning is all about, let's give you a demo. So I spoke with some experts and lung doctors to understand what is the best way to do proning at home. Well, I'm using a yoga mat over here, but you can do this on your bed mostly, especially if it's a patient already on the bed. You just need to roll him over. But before that, this is the prep you need to do. Now, proning at home generally involves 3 layers of cushions being put in. You'll see that the tallest pile is right here. But also notice how it's not in the center really, because the thing to remember is that the tallest pile of 2 cushions should not fall on your stomach, but actually be on your pelvic region. Let me show you how. So when you lie down, this tallest pile of 2, you can use 3 also if that's okay with you, should get here on your pelvic region. You see this? You see my 2 feet back on that pillow in the end. And then the smallest one just to support your chin. Now if you'll notice, the thing to check and understand whether you're doing it right or no is put your hand underneath. And if your stomach still has space between the bed, that's when you're doing it correctly. So one way to do is like this. The other one, also called the swimming pose, can be done like this. The other hand just goes on the back and you can just lie on the side. Do this for about 30 minutes and then it's advisable to change to another position. The other position is basically to go on your side. That's when you can let go of the pillows and just lie on the side like this. You can do the exact same thing on the other side as well. And the 4th position is to actually be sitting in a position slightly reclined. So I'm just using the pillows right now for support. When you sit at home, it can be like this as well. So slightly declined at about 30 degrees or so. So try this at home, but remember it's very important to understand who needs proning and who does not. So do consult your doctor before you indulge in any of these exercises.
Well, let's now get you the latest COVID news. And Delhi recorded 381 deaths over the last 24 hours, and that's the highest since COVID reached the city last year. Let's go across to NDTV Sukirti for more on this. And Sukirti, the number of deaths every day remains a big worry, and the desperate search for hospital beds continues in the capital, though the number of cases have come down.
Well, yes, Gargi. So the number of cases have come down slightly, but at the same time, we have to see it in the context that the number of tests have also reduced. So Delhi was conducting about 1 lakh tests on a usual day, but now they've come down to, it fluctuates between 57,000 to about 70,000 tests, which is at least, if not 50%, then at least 25% lesser tests are being conducted at this moment. That is something that all experts have been pointing out. On the other hand, the other concerning figure, of course, remains these death figures, again a record high for Delhi, and we all have been reporting, me and my colleagues have been reporting from crematorium sites as well as burial grounds across Delhi how they are running out of space. There are new sites being built, additional cremation platforms that are being put up, and it's a race against time to have enough space so that people at least get a dignified death at this point of time. So as far as statistics are concerned, as far as deaths are concerned, that is what the scenario looks like. And of course, the hospital bed situation still remains critical. People are unable to get beds in hospitals or any kind of ICU or ventilator beds, and similarly for COVID care centers also, there is a severe crunch.
All right, Sukirti, thanks so much for joining us there with the latest. Now to Maharashtra, which reported 895 new COVID deaths, but not all of them took place in the last 24 hours. 392 occurred in the past 48 hours and 179 over the last week. Now, officials say the delay in reporting the deaths was because scrutinizing data that was given to them by laboratories. It's an ongoing process, and this is the cumulative number that they have just released. The state also reported 66,358 new COVID cases in the last 24 hours. Now to Kerala, which has reported over 30,000 COVID cases for the first time. They've crossed that 30,000 mark with 32,819 COVID cases being reported in the last 24 hours. Let's go across to Sneha now for more. And Sneha, what is the situation there? A worry there as well over hospital beds?
Well, that's right, Gargi. In fact, even as numbers have increased, crossed 30,000, the test positivity rate has only been increasing. All these indicate what could be some extremely high numbers in days or weeks to come. And that is perhaps what the state government is looking at as the biggest challenge. Of course, restrictions are on the ground. We'll show you these visuals of police checking commuters to see whether it is only essential or unnecessary movement or any such thing. So those checks on the ground, but also in terms of, the spread. We are talking about around a 255% increase in cases over the last 2 weeks, according to the Chief Minister. One of the biggest challenges before Kerala government currently is to ensure oxygen bed availability for the numbers that are projected for weeks to come. Let's see this ground report.
COVID war rooms like these in every district of Kerala are buzzing. From finding a hospital bed for a COVID patient to contact tracing, the updates are real time, every 4 hours.
Currently, I will be calling medical officers on every CFLTC and CSLTC, and from them I will be getting the current update about how many beds are available. I will be sharing this with our other team members, so that they can, within 5 minutes, we can shift a patient from their home to CFLTC or CSLTC.
Kerala already has the maximum healthcare personnel to population ratio in the country, but they have commissioned additional forces.
We have recently deployed 2,000 teachers. So for each corporation ward we have 5 teachers, municipal ward we have 2 teachers. They will help the rapid response team in the field level to identify the patients, isolate them.
There is an effort to rationalize and streamline use of resources at a time of high demand.
With the test positivity rate crossing 22% in Kerala, the triaging system of demarcating COVID patients into A, B, C category is turning to be the backbone of the system to manage resources, and it starts right at the primary health center.
In districts like Thiruvananthapuram, Ernakulam, where bed occupancy has crossed 70% in the government sector, the focus is now on getting critical care beds added on a war footing.
Last time when we had the surge, we had prepared somewhere around 3,000 critical beds, and this time we are focusing on double of that, 5,000 to 6,000. And more importantly is this time the one new change that we are doing is that all critical beds we are trying to ensure oxygen beds.
Private hospitals have been asked to reserve 25% of their beds for COVID patients and put off non-urgent surgeries.
There are frantic calls for beds, that is one. Till 2 days ago we had to say no to many patients, and yesterday we were able to open up another ward to occupy or increase the bed strength, especially oxygen beds. So we were able to receive.
The strict restrictions across Kerala from today, an urgent measure, says administration, to keep the COVID-affected numbers below the surge capacity. With camera person SP Babu, Sneha Koshi for NDTV.
Well, to talk more about the situation across the country, we're now joined by Dr. Rajneesh Kapoor, Vice Chairman, Interventional Cardiology, Medanta Hospital, Dr. Vijay Dhasmana, Vice Chancellor, Swami Rama Himalayan University from Dehradun, and Avni Singh, CEO, Spice Health. Thank you so much all for joining us this morning. Firstly, to you, Dr. Rajneesh Kapoor, is the situation now in the national capital, region settling somewhat because of the efforts that have been made over the last couple of days in, getting oxygen to all hospitals?
Yeah, as regards the oxygen, I think still it's, in and out. It's not fully controlled still. There are hospitals which get a shortage of oxygen in the morning. They struggle for their oxygen. They run for their vendors. And then by noon or afternoon, they get the oxygen. So it is still disturbing. It's still not smooth, under control. I think one has to do more measures. And because, still the patient numbers are overloaded in all hospitals, and each COVID patient requires substantial amount of oxygen as compared to the other patients. So it has to be much more measures at the moment than it is being provided. I think we are still short by 30-40%, and hospitals are struggling way high still with oxygen, and so much so that they are cancelling all their surgeries because so that they can divert the oxygen from surgeries to the COVID patients. So it is still happening. It's still not controlled, haywire. But yes, slightly, maybe 3 or 4% better than as compared to 1 week prior.
Just 3 or 4% and still a struggle. And, all you hospitals, this is not something that you should be, so involved with or even worry about, given your main duties is to save lives. But here you're running around Delhi hospitals, approaching the High Court to ensure they get an oxygen supply. Dr. Vijay Dhasmana, if you could tell us about the situation in Uttarakhand, where the cases have been increasing. And, I'm from Uttarakhand and I've been hearing reports of how there as well oxygen availability is a problem now.
See, in our state, oxygen is not a problem, but since the number of cases are increasing day by day and infrastructure is still struggling, we don't have that kind of infrastructure available in Uttarakhand. So all private hospitals and government hospitals, we are working together to give the best possible, care to the patients coming to the hospitals.
Right. And what about the far-flung regions? What are you hearing about that? There were concerns that after the Kumbh, as many people return, to their villages and to other areas, that the COVID cases have been increasing steadily.
So, see, as far as Uttarakhand is concerned, as far these far-flung areas, the hill districts are concerned, there are very less number of cases right now. And many number of cases we are getting from, say, Dehradun, Trai of Dehradun, from Haridwar, from Udham Singh Nagar. In the hill district, still we are safe. So, let us keep our finger crossed that up in the mountains, there is not much problem so that we can cope up with the situation.
All right, Avni Singh, CEO of Spice Health, and you've been doing, Spice has been doing its part in trying to help in this crisis that we're facing. And recently, SpiceJet lifted oxygen concentrators from Hong Kong, 800 oxygen concentrators, and there's more effort you're going to be making. Tell us about this effort that has been made, in the time of this crisis.
Right. So far, we've tried to do as much as we can to help. We have imported about 2,000 oxygen concentrators so far from China and Hong Kong. Over the next few weeks, we will also be importing concentrators and BiPAP machines from Europe and the USA. We will be supplying 5,000 concentrators to the Delhi government over the next few weeks. We've also significantly ramped up our testing capabilities. We have put our mobile laboratories in remote areas across the country, in Palakkad, Thrissur, Kasargod, now also in Aurangabad, Jalgaon. I think that increasing testing, increasing the vaccination more rapidly, and supplying oxygen and doing whatever we can is the next step to help in the current situation.
All right, a very, very worrying situation. Dr. Rajneesh Kapoor, again, why is it that people are trying to understand? Of course, there are the absolute numbers that we're seeing of people requiring, of getting COVID and then, requiring oxygen as well. But in this particular wave, have you found that the illness is more, that people are requiring oxygen a lot earlier than it was the last time around?
Yeah, I think COVID illness, obviously, once the virus exposure becomes multiple times, the illness also becomes more graver, the lung damage becomes more grave. And once there is more serious lung damage, obviously the patient requires much more oxygen. So it's usually the patients require high flow nasal oxygen, which is around 60 liters a minute. So you can well imagine how many patients requiring 60 liters a minute, and overall there has to be a shortage if we are not prepared right from the front. One thing I like to say, one more thing out of the box thinking, which we have been doing at our hospital. I think we are touching basing with lots of RWAs and providing them numbers, phone numbers of the doctors in rotation. At Medanta, we have done so in Gurgaon heavily and very intensively, that we have provided them with phone numbers, the helplines, that if at all they have any COVID patient in their society, they get in touch with us and try to treat that patient at home only, so that hospitals are already overloaded, they are overburdened, and there are no beds available. And that's the reason which is increasing the panic in the society. So trying to mitigate the panic by these means, by providing helplines to the RWAs.
Right. And Dr. Dasmara, very briefly, in Uttarakhand as well, there are helplines that people can access in need?
Yes, there are helplines started by the government and even the private hospitals also. So people can get the real-time information, they can get the necessary help from the hospitals, from the doctors. Like in our hospital, we have a separate team who is taking care of the patients who are at home. So we have provided them home kit where all medicines are there in the kit. And every day doctors are in touch with them, so that less number of patients or critical patients who need oxygen, they only come to the hospital, and rest of the patients, they can be treated at their homes. So that's what strategy we have adopted here in Uttarakhand, and in most of the hospitals they have done. Some of the hospitals, they have started telemedicine facilities, so that the patients, they can get counseling from the doctors, online counseling. So right. All sorts of strategies we are adopting here to provide the best possible healthcare to the patient at this juncture, at this crisis.
All right. Well, thank you so much, doctors, and Avni, for joining us, on the program today to talk about this crisis we're facing, and a commendable effort by SpiceJet to actually get those oxygen concentrators, airlift them from abroad. Well, with that, time for us to slip into a short break. We'll get you more news on the other side. A report from Surat. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, let's get you this ground report now from a Surat hospital. NDTV's Purva reports.
Right now we are
outside Surat Civil Hospital, and as you can see, one ambulance is waiting outside, and a private car came in with a patient here who is in need of oxygen, as you can see. And there is one patient already inside the hospital, but looking at the condition of this particular patient, this particular patient is in fact being taken inside the hospital. However, no direct admissions are given here at Civil Hospital, considering that the admissions are completely full. Patients are being asked to wait outside here, and there's already one patient who's waiting inside this ambulance. But looking at the condition of this particular patient and the seriousness of this patient, the patient in the car is in fact being taken inside. The oxygen is given. However, at the civil hospital there is in fact a shortage of oxygen, and in Surat there are a lot of private hospitals which are already full. Even this civil hospital is full.
All right, so there, Purva reporting from outside a hospital in Surat as ambulances have lined up. With that, time for us to slip into a short break. More news on the other side. Stay with us.